Please welcome to the stage Anil Dash, MC for Mozilla Festival 2025.
One more time. All right, everybody. This is going to be a capstone for the entire weekend, and I am so excited about this. You are going to get to see something that is actually new. I got to tell you, this is one of the reasons I took the gig. Let me back up a little bit. My history with Mozilla goes back, I'm going to tell you this, 25 years. Before MozFest, before Firefox, I was at the Mozilla 1.0 launch, right? And the reason I went is because it's the kind of place that can make you believe in something. It's the kind of organization that can remind you why you liked technology in the first place. And that's what I think of when we have had this conversation all weekend about unlearning. And particularly, we think about unlearning the defaults. And one of the most important defaults that we have to unlearn right now is around data, right? Data right now, in the experience that all of us have, and especially the other billions of users on the internet that are not as sophisticated as all of you, is that data is almost something that happens to you. Data is something that is extracted from you. We've heard these incredible conversations about how the perception of data and these experiences online really varies, especially in marginalized communities, right? So many communities are having their data taken, or they are finding the experience of the data that has been surveilled from them being the only data that happens around them. And this is something that, it's easy to overlook because data is a small word, or it feels like a small word. When you hear data, you picture like numbers in a spreadsheet. But when you think of that small word data, you should be thinking of big words like power. When you hear data, you should be thinking of big words like control. But also think of this through line you've been hearing all weekend about artists and creators, the connections, like Chelsea was talking about earlier today, to music, right, to painters, to all the other things we see in the creative arts. One of the things that's come up in the conversation about how we think about consent and data is the conversation that somebody like Taylor Swift kicks off when she talks about Taylor's version. She's talking about creators having an agency over how their works are used. And you don't have to be a Taylor Swift fan to understand it is important for her to have her say in how her work is used. I'm a Prince fan. He's a great artist, but he said the thing he wanted to be remembered for just as much as his music is to say, if you don't own your masters, then your masters own you. He's talking about master recordings. That's how much he as an artist cared about tying control of the things that he created to the history of black artists being exploited, right? Now, we don't often think of data in the same category as we think of the things that artists make in the world. But it is. It can often be. It can often be a cultural creation. It could be something that is a legacy for a people, right? Data is that important. Now, what if we could unlearn for ourselves the way we think about data and then reteach the entire rest of the world their own relationship to data? I am very excited to tell you all that that is something that can be possible. Because the other part that can happen in these kinds of conversations like we have at the Mozilla Festival is that you hear these amazing dialogues, these amazing conversations, and it can almost scratch that itch, making you feel like, great, we talked about it, right? We had an awesome conversation. And I've been guilty of that at times. For a long time, I used to come to tech conversations, these conventions, these events, and I would say, wow, I went away and I feel so much better. And it is great. We have to connect. We have to talk to each other. But that is not action. That is not the entire thing. We have to build. Because the people who take data without consent, they are building. They're building every day, right? So we are not just talking, we are building. All of your relationships to data can start to change today. I'm thrilled to say that here at MozFest today, you're going to hear that the Mozilla team has not just been imagining alternatives, they've been preparing to launch them. And they've been doing it in Mozilla style, in a joyous collaboration with community. You're going to hear a conversation about what it means to build a future where communities are not just having data taken from them, but they have control and agency over what their own future with data is. So please join me in welcoming the leaders in that conversation. EM Lewis-Jong, the founder of the Mozilla Data Collective, Nabiha Syed, the executive director of the Mozilla Foundation, and a conversation being led by Marty Swant. Welcome.
The way that we are being talked to about AI right now and about data right now is a false choice. People are being left out, they're being excluded, or they're being extracted from, and those are basically the options.
Is AI hopelessly extractive? You know, this is a real question we could ask, like, is that baked into the way that it's made? There has to be a kind of a new way that's a little bit more social and relational.
Technology is failing people. It is failing people who don't speak English. It is failing women. It is failing all kinds of communities.
I use voice recognition a lot, but of course only in English. I have to pronounce every single word so carefully because Siri doesn't understand my accent. This shows that there's a real problem and a real gap that needs to be addressed.
Mozilla Data Collective is a way to give people more choice. We imagine a world where your data set is your power. It's something that you get to control. Mozilla Data Collective was born out of the Common Voice community. Common Voice is a global community of more than 300 languages from every inhabited continent on Earth. People who stood up and said, I don't see my language and my community represented in technology.
Common Voice is originally a brainstorming products from communities. There won't be Common Voice if we don't have communities.
I was born and raised in Ñuñoa, in the region of Puno in Peru. I was looking for spaces where my language was present, so it was not easy to find any resources on the web. What we are trying to do as a community member in Common Voice and in Data Collective is to represent truly the knowledge in the language.
So we're really in a moment right now where we get to say these systems need to work for everyone, and the ways that we're going to get them to work for everyone are by making sure they have the right data sets that represent everybody, every language, every culture, every type of identity that you might inhabit.
Open source is key to building a better and more inclusive tech ecosystem. It creates this beautiful sense of community where knowledge is shared instead of being hoarded, and that's how innovation grows. Most of the progress we've made in African language technology wouldn't be possible if everything was locked behind paywalls or even big corporations.
Last year, I got an opportunity to apply for Common Voice funding. We collected data from 39 Pakistani languages. We collected more than 500 hours of data. At least 5 PhD scholars have got access to this data, textual data.
We built Mozilla Data Collective to make 3 things possible with your data: creating new data sets, curating existing ones, and controlling who gets to use them and for what.
The future of technology built on top of Common Voice datasets will be very precious because it truly represents our voices of our community.
We want to build a community of thoughtful practice around AI and heritage and culture.
It's easy to overlook this kind of work until you realize what's at stake. When our languages and voices are missing from technology, it's not just an inconvenience, it's about identity and representation.
We see it as a knowledge system, like a knowledge that doesn't only carry a language, it carries like all the aspects of human life.
It is a community effort. We are only going to change the stakes if we can work together, and we think that there is really meaningful value exchange that can happen if we enter into it with care.
All right. Hello, hello. Wow, closing session. What a way to turn down the lights on MOSFETs, whatever the phrase is. Yeah, close out, turn down, whatever the phrase is. But no, excited to be here. We've got a lot to cover, and it was great too. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video we just had. Just a bit of a taste of what we're going to be talking about. But I want to start off in just a bit more. You get to see EM in the video, but EM, tell us a little bit more about MDC and why now is such an important time to have this.
Yeah, well, we started Mozilla Data Collective because we couldn't find what we wanted. Like, that's really the beginning. We are the same team behind Common Voice. It's the same community behind Common Voice. And we were entering into this really hard, sometimes, conversation with community about whether or not limiting the scope of our work to CC0 datasets was going to get us where we needed to go. And it was off the back of that conversation that we were looking around. We were like, where is the platform that gives us real control, that gives us lots of choice, that we can customize for all the different things that communities might want out of sharing their data? And we couldn't find it, so we built it, which I feel like is very Mozilla.
Makes sense, yeah. If you can't find it, go build it, yeah. Yeah, Nabiha, we'd love to hear your thoughts too when you're thinking of how this fits into everything the Foundation's doing overall.
Yeah, so listening to community yields the best innovation, right? Because you hear actual pain points. And so I think our role at the Foundation is to create the architecture to do that listening, and then the structure to be like, all right, let's build it. Like, let's go, let's give you the space. And you know, sometimes that means looking out in the world to see who's building it, who's right to build it. And for Mozilla Data Collective, we had the right person inside who'd been looking after Common Voice for so long. And so to me, this is like a gorgeous proof point of exactly how we're supposed to move in the world.
So maybe for a little context, EM, tell us a bit more about kind of what got you interested in this intersection of language and AI in the first place.
Yeah, for me, it was really personal. It was about 4.5 years ago, and my partner and I were having children, and he's from the island of Borneo, and we thought that technology would be our best friend in trying to raise a multilingual family, and we were disappointed. We were thinking there's going to be like caption services where we can have captions in all the languages that our families speak. There's going to be pronunciation software. It's going to be amazing. And then we looked and we were naive and we were wrong. There is actually a deeply monolingual tech ecosystem out there, and that was really part of the motivation. I saw Common Voice in a newsletter, and I was like, it's fate.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah,
and here we are.
Well, it's interesting too, because I know that part of this is really going into communities and helping to figure out, not just to learn about the language and use collecting a lot of the data that's helping to train these models, but also helping them to figure out how to use it. And so, I mean, given the theme the last few days has been unlearning, right? And I'm kind of curious, what are some of the things that maybe you had to unlearn as a part of this process of launching MDC?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was a few things. Open source is really baked into our DNA, and it's worth saying, Common Voice has been around since 2017. It's been around since before ChatGPT. We cared about multilingual tech long before that. And I think one of the things that I had to unlearn was a very narrow definition of openness. Like, we had to have conversations about what openness would need to mean for it to serve communities who were feeling extracted from. Like, they did not feel that openness was really serving their goals. They felt like openness is about gift, and it's about sharing, and it is not about land grab free for all, and that was how it was starting to feel. So we had to really unlearn some of those definitions.
Nabiha, I would love to hear anything to add to that, just any other unlearnings that you've noticed along the way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the unlearnings is about how we think innovation works. Like, one reason I fell in love with Common Voice is I don't only speak English, and I know that I think differently when I speak Urdu. Right? If you speak a different language, you know that you have different concepts available to you. You have different ways of thinking or approaching or naming something. And what's so beautiful about Common Voice is that it creates then the architecture for people to go and build something, not only for themselves, but in a way that might unlock innovation rooted in concepts that only exist in that language. And to me, that creates a far more vibrant innovation ecosystem. And thinking about like language as unlocking innovation is probably not it certainly wasn't a thought I had until I started spending more time looking at Common Voice.
So it's interesting too, because you're talking about going into these communities that in a lot of ways have either had their trust broken by maybe tech companies that have misused their data or scraped it or whatever else, and a lot of these communities maybe aren't as familiar with tech companies, whether they're giants or startups or whatnot. And so I'm sure there's some instances where there's maybe a mistrust or a lack of trust, or there are certain things that you all had to do to build that trust, I guess, to show like, hey, we're not just like another tech company, we're wanting to do something to help the communities.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. I mean, I think the first thing to say is that Common Voice is software, it's a platform, and it's a platform that anyone comes to us to use. We don't, generally speaking, go to them and say, hey, you would love this. Like, we've never really had a marketing budget or anything like that. We move by word of mouth. People come to us and they say, hey, I don't see my language showing up and I want it to. Can you help me to localize it on Common Voice? And I think that directionality matters, because it means then you're providing a service. Providing a service is not always the same as trying to sell something. And I think that's helped to build trust. And the unique kind of model that Mozilla has more broadly, where we're stewarded by a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit with a history of building technologies that people can trust, that takes them seriously as people. I think all of that really helped.
So what are some of the other use cases that you've seen? I know we saw some in the video, but we'd love to hear a bit more about what this looks like in practice.
For data, I think a lot of it is about trying to unlock use cases around language. And historically, we've been all audio, right? So it's how do I get transcriptions? How do I generate natural sounding speech? How do I engage in translation? So that's really been the history of it. But Mozilla Data Collective is broader than just Common Voice and broader than just speech. We're really thinking holistically about helping people to share data to solve all kinds of problems of toxicity, of bias, of lack of representation, and that goes way beyond languages.
It's interesting. Well, one of the things that I found interesting when we were talking about kind of how MDC works is the way that code switching actually ends up breaking down large language models. So maybe I think it's an interesting example of why having such a diversity of languages matters, and also having an accurate representation of those languages matters.
Yeah, I really want to push on this idea that monolingualism is weird. Like, it's actually not, it's not common around the world. Most people will switch between languages. Most people will switch between variants and dialects and accents depending on context. And yet at the moment, the systems are not built for that, right? Like, they assume that you are going to be speaking in one language, one way all the time. But that's not what speech is like, because speech is personal, it's intimate, it's intersectional, and getting data that represents that reality is core. We can't expect systems that work for those contexts if they're not fed the right data.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious too, Nabiha, I know there's a podcast you're on recently that you talked about this interesting idea of so much of the way that law and media often reacts to tech is very reactive. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of curious too, so it's looking at a problem, or it's writing about something that happened, or like a loss that's reacting to something that happened. But here's an example of where, in a way, you're using data to preempt. I mean, in some ways it's a reaction to the misuse of data, but in other ways it's also a preemption to trying to create the groundwork to do something better than it's done in the past. Just would love your thoughts on kind of how this is maybe an example of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think having started my career as a lawyer and spent a lot of time working with and for journalists, you realize that there's entire modes of existing in the world that are reactive to harm, and we need them. They're extremely important. But in a universe where certain people build tech in a way that is very comfortable moving fast and breaking things, it just felt like insufficient to have a situation where tech can move at this speed and then you try to block it and change it. And so what is incredible to me about Mozilla's approach, and then Common Voice and MDC as examples of that approach, like real tangible examples, it's you can have change by revealing harms, but you can also have change by just saying, we could just do this differently. Like, we can just choose to do this entirely differently, not in reaction to anyone, but only oriented in our values. And Common Voice is that from every single step of how you create a data set, how we engage with partners, who gets included, who gets seen. And MDC takes that to the next level to say, listen, one issue was representation, and we're addressing that, but another now is curation and control, and we have the infrastructure for that too.
Are there other examples of maybe how this is also playing out over, let's say, like other cohorts that Mozilla has, or even beyond MDC, where this maybe the similar approach is working?
Yeah, so we launched our incubator yesterday, and the first cohort of the incubator is all oriented around climate. And part of the reason for going into that space, building on our existing work, we had been part of something called the Green Screen Collective, working with funders who are looking at the intersection of climate and technology, was that we realized this is a conversation that is live, sticky, and messy, right? Like there aren't clean, easy answers of like, what will the advancement of AI do to climate? We know some of the impacts, but what's the positive way forward? So we thought, okay, we're hearing this conversation. Concerns around climate are keeping ethical, values-driven builders out of AI. How can we make the space to say, come on in, build with us, let us give you space to incubate and grow what you think is a better way forward. And that's how I think about the Foundation's work. It's how do we resource the best people with the best ideas, closest to actual lived problems, and give them space, patience, time to come up with the right solutions.
Well, it's interesting, I'm blanking on the author's name, Kim Stanley Robinson, a sci-fi author, yeah. There's an interview I listened to, I read with him a while ago where he's one of the very few utopian sci-fi writers. Because so much of tech we hear about these days is dystopian. And I really liked Rose talk from the first day where it's, why does being bold only have to be going to the moon? It's like we can have more realistic, and I mean, I think often how people talk about AGI so often. And it's like the sci-fi thing, and so much of the air gets, in the room gets sucked up by this discussion rather than ways that tech can help people now. So I was wondering if maybe you could both talk a bit about that. Like, how do you reset the narrative, I guess, around tech and looking more at the more beneficial, altruistic ways of using tech now when people are often used to the opposite of this?
Yeah, I can take that, and then you?
Sure.
I think one of the things that excited me about doing Mozilla Data Collective was the idea that your data, the data sets that are under your control, of which there are many, so many more than you realize on a day-to-day basis, you are contributing to data sets, you are creating data sets. But currently it's like you're just a battery that's being drained by somebody else to build their dream, which may or may not be terrifying.
Yeah.
How could it be that data sets become something that we use as levers for change? Like, imagine a world where you can invest your data set in that startup that you think is building a better version of the platform that you want to use. What would it look like for you to be able to say, hey, I think that I can use my data set to give a first opportunity at innovation to the people that I love, or to build something for a really small community that I care about. I want us to just reframe the conversation around data sets more broadly. It's a lever, it's a lever that we can pull.
I love what you said about bringing up sort of sci-fi, dystopia, and protopia. There's that meme that goes around that sci-fi says, don't build the torment nexus. Do not build the torment nexus. And then in tech, they're like, I built the torment nexus. Yeah. I did it. I understood. And you're like, you deeply did not understand. Yeah. And so to me, that underscores the necessity of imagining in the creative space, what does good look like, right? And that's one reason that we had featured films here of brave futures. What could good look like? Can we imagine it? And I think it is necessary for us to create spaces to say, this is possible. So articulate your problems, communities. Tell us what's wrong, but believe that there is another way to do it that will be responsive to your problems. We can't be so idealistic that there's no room to critique. The critique is necessary because it defines the space to dream in, but we have to nourish both. And I think, sci-fi is a great way to do that. Thinking about protopia, ideating around protopia is really, really important, because if we just feed ourselves dystopian visions, we end up bringing them into existence, and I don't want to manifest that.
Yeah, so feeding ourselves more utopian visions of this, yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, I'm kind of curious, because in some ways it seems like so much of the way people even think about data sets right now, it's, on the one hand, it almost feels like there's this collective fait accompli right now. Like everyone's like, OpenAI, it's massively scaled, Anthropic scaled. It's really hard to offer something that, even if it's better quality, more altruistic, more thoughtful, everyone just goes to the easier, cheaper option. How do you fight against that, I guess? And how do you show people that using a more quality data set, even if it takes more time to kind of think through, more thoughtfully done out, how do you get people to also rethink what they go with rather than going with the cheapest option?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel like there are a couple of pieces here, and I think one is the assumption that OpenAI or any other large tech company is motivated to solve all kinds of problems for everyone. I think we need to interrogate that. Like we don't see that, right? Like they're interested in serving particular markets and they're interested in serving them in particular ways. Is that going to reach everybody? No, and so we have to be able to offer alternatives for people. And I guess if there is a theory of change underlying this, it is that people are fundamentally creative, that they want connection, that they want to make things for themselves, and that they won't just be passive consumers all of the time. And so I think I want to believe that people offered the tools, make it really, really easy. If you want people to do the right thing, make it super easy. People will build things for themselves and for the people that they love. And that's especially true for the people who don't have the privilege of being in one of those high value markets for company X over here. So I think that's one piece of it. And then the second is that actually, like high quality data sets, yes, on the one hand, they're expensive to create, but we're not really talking about that. We're trying to unlock the abundance of data sets that already exist. So, best estimates have it that 0.01% of the world's data has been used in training so far. While there's this battleground, like everyone battling over the internet over here, we are constantly generating data. We are constantly creating data. Those videos that you make are data. The messages that you send are data. We all get to choose how we want to unlock that and who we want to share it with and how and what for. So I think that part of the answer to making this a sustainable ecosystem has to be unlocking what already exists. It's almost like a green mentality around data, kind of recycling of data.
Just building on that, data isn't just useful for commercial endeavors, right? You see the rise of investigative data journalism. You see data being used by researchers for all kinds of pro-social needs. You see it used by researchers, policymakers, activists, advocates. And so recognizing that you need quality curated data sets for that universe of engaging and understanding our world is really important, right? So data sets that are created purely for commercial use may not be fit for purpose at all for all of these other pro-social uses. So one thing I love about MDC is that its outreach to so many that are creating data sets for pro-social reasons and housing it in a go-to place that has curation and control as bedrock is actually feeding a much larger ecosystem of activity. In our incubator, we're talking a lot about product community fit, because the overfitting and overfocus of market as a driver for everything ignores so many critical dynamics that actually make the ecosystem work. But if you step back and say what works for communities, whether they are communities of people building in a way that is meant to generate revenue or some other kind of social good, we have to create space for that dynamic to evolve and be a concept that happens together.
Makes a lot of sense. It seems like so often, the phrase like if someone's writing a book, the best book ideas often come from something that you haven't seen elsewhere, you just want to make for yourself, or the best art is even for a small group rather than just monetizing everything. And so I'm kind of curious too, even just thinking of the importance of building for community. So often there's so many companies that use the word community as a euphemism for users or consumers. How has your approach maybe been different when working with real communities that are diverse, they're local, they're real people? I'm just kind of curious how you think about that word and how in some ways it's been co-opted, but in other ways there's still something to it.
I want to give you the last word on it because you're so good. So take this away.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I think I actually have heard other people speak so eloquently about this since I've been here, which is a sign that this is a really special place. I've heard so many people talking about community. I mean, we think about communities as spaces where, it is like they are true believers. They are oriented towards something that they think is a higher order need or purpose, and we think that they get value from each other as well, and we're like over here. I think any community that you are directing all the time, or where you're not giving them space for this organic stuff to bubble up, then they're not real communities, right? So we try and be in the community enough to understand, and out of the community enough to cede control.
That's great. Well, we're out of time. Is there any last thoughts that you want to end on?
Keep dreaming, keep building. That's what we're here to do.
And sign up for Mozilla Data Collective.
Also that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for being here. Yeah.
All right, we go.
Great.
Future of technology can be good if communities get to build it for themselves.
We need to create these technologies right now, right here, tomorrow.
This is a lot of people for Sunday night, and I love it. I hope over the last 3 days you felt the care and joy and creativity of this space, because I was hoping for that since it was my first MozFest, but I didn't know what to expect. And I felt that from every single wrangler, volunteer, person who volunteered their time, our interpreters who are incredible. So let us the most important thing I want to say is moltes gracias. Thank you so, so, so much to everyone who made this happen. It is incredible. So over these last few days, we've heard stories of courage, of resistance, of repair, of joy, of people just building stuff, which is pretty great. Our speakers helped us remember that unlearning isn't about forgetting. It's about making space for what comes next, for what's more irresistibly, joyfully connected and human. That is what we are about. So maybe you designed an algorithmic perfume, maybe a few of them, I don't know. You joined a takoyaki debate, you watched a short film or on protopian visions of AI. Maybe you laughed at the broligarchy, because you should laugh at them. Maybe you made a new friend on a sunny terrace. Maybe you did handstands at the dance party. And if you were the person doing them, can you teach me? Because it was very impressive and a little dangerous, but that's fine. Whatever your journey has been, I hope you are so proud of what is possible when people bring their whole selves into the work, when people are authentic, when people make mistakes, when people are trying to learn and be open. Magic is possible because we are unlearning together. We're unlearning that technology isn't about code or capital. It is about those relationships and possibilities. The thing with relationships is that they don't end when a festival does. That's our hope. We want the relationships to keep going. So the artists, builders, educators, and creators you met here, they're working year-round. Stay in touch with them. Stay in touch with each other. And as for us, our work doesn't stop either. We will continue to be building out our incubator, so stay tuned for new cohorts next year. Our creative assemblies will continue drawing people together to imagine what comes next. Our grantees and our fellows prove every day that different futures are possible. We came together to unlearn, but we leave together to build. So if you want to stay in touch, stay connected via our new Instagram account, just for us, Mozilla Foundation. And remember that unlearning isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Thank you so much. So the thing with endings is nothing really ever ends, you just pass the mic. And now I'm going to pass the mic to Rocio O'Rourke, our director of MozFest, who will take us on home. Thanks, everybody. Rocio? Hey!
¿Me oyen? No. ¿Sí? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Great. I was actually very impressed by listening to Nabiha and learning about her unlearning, because it's actually very similar to my own experience. A reference that I was just thinking about is, do you remember that song from the Beatles, like, all I need is love, love? Yeah? Is all I need or all we need? What is it? All we need is love, love. This is the first time that I actually sing on a stage. You can tell. All right. So 3 days, right? 3 days of unlearning together. You may remember on Friday when I had the pleasure to meet you all for the first time, I mentioned that I was going to spend those 3 days walking around and learning from your unlearning. And I did. And I did talk to many of you, not everyone, but a few of you, and I learned a lot about about ownership, maybe. Who learned about ownership too? Yeah, thanks. But there was a topic, a theme that was recurrent, and I was very impressed, and that was love. Wow, right? Love. So technology, sorry, I got distracted. So love, that was it. That was the thank you. That was that moment that clicked, and a few of you too shared the same feeling. And I was very impressed about how technology, and actually us as a movement, there's so much space for us to incorporate love and care. And Nabiha was just mentioning something really close, and I think it's maybe everyone's experience this weekend. Am I right? Yay? Kind of? Okay. Well, love and care, one of the first manifestations of it is gratitude, right? So I'm going to need a lot of help today, because my time with you today is all about gratitude. So I want to start by thanking all of you for unlearning with all of us, unlearning together this weekend. But may I ask you something? May I ask for a favor? If you feel please say yes. Yes. All right. Would you feel comfortable sharing gratitude too, and with me? And this is why I think that this weekend we also learned that the first step to transformation was reimagining, right? And we heard that again and again. Reimagining will be the first step, the prequel to transformation. So we have reimagined a world where love takes part in technology, in tools, in our future. So I think that for us to leave Barcelona, to leave this festival, and actually start creating our future that involves love, care, and gratitude. So are you with me so far? Yeah, thank you. All right, so this is very easy. If you feel comfortable, would you turn to your right and left? If you have someone there, and just help me say gracias. Because this is your Spanish lesson today, and gracias in Catalan. So gracias, 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 gracias. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think now we're ready we have activated, we have manifested a world where technology will be people-centered. And next year when we see you again, we will talk about how love is part of our lives. Now, I need to make sure that we actually go over some of the people that you may have seen around helping us put all of this together. So are you ready for some gratitude with me? Okay, thank you. So if I may, I need to read this because there's no forgetting. And just so you know, this list was actually organized by the team. So we want to say, we together, all of us, we want to start by saying thank you to Barcelona, the City Council, the City of Barcelona, and Decidim. Thank you. Then there's the entire Mozilla Foundation staff. Yay! Yay, right? I hope you met as many, like the wonderful colleagues. And then the Mozilla ecosystem, that includes Ventures, Moco, Mozilla AI, and Mozilla.org. Yay! Okay, next, please, the Wranglers. Our Wranglers are responsible for, I'm going to say 6 tracks, the vast majority of our program. So this program is co-curated with our Wranglers. So can we please give them a big round of applause to our Wranglers? Go Wranglers. Thank you. And then we also have our volunteers. Did you see them wearing a blue hoodie? Our volunteers who made sure everything ran smoothly. And there's also, of course, the volunteer coordinators. Can we do an extra one for our volunteer coordinators? Thank you. This is fantastic, thank you. They're over there, can you see them? Yay! And with that, we also have 2 special mentions. Amber Malik, who was part of our team. Yes, Amber, yay! She's our production assistant. Thank you for everything you did, Amber. Whee! Yeah, that's the spirit. Okay, next there's Callie, who was also our production assistant. Callie, where are you? Okay. Now, all the facilitators for lending their time, their work, and their minds. Yay. Our keynote speakers. Okay, I didn't hear the round of applause for the keynote speakers, did you? I appreciate you so much. Okay, and what about our fabulous MC, Anil Dash? Where are you, Anil? Yay, Anil! Okay, then behind the scenes, there are multiple people who help us put this together, and I'm going to include our security team, ETS, which included Naomi, Darren, and Guillermo. Did you see security around taking care of us? Wonderful. Okay, and then with them also, there's a number of people in production behind the scenes right here. Some of you may have seen them wearing black. I could list a few names, but there are so many, and we're so grateful that they partnered with us. It's been like 6 months of working with the staff of Giant Cookie. Thank you. All right. So it takes a village, but it starts with this group of people. Yes. So I'm going to invite you to welcome my colleague Lucy, who leads our production. Lucy, yay! Thank you, guys. Now, let's invite Mark, who looks after platforms and tech production. Mark! Yeah. Thank you, guys. Now, next is Seher, who runs our Wrangler program. What are the Wranglers? She runs our Wrangler program. Seher, welcome. Yay! Now, let's welcome Steph, who project manages us to the finish line. Steph, thank you. Whee! Hey, pause for a second. Are we ready? Seina, whose curation made this year's program so amazing. Whee! Now, this is Mozilla Festival core team. You all help make this possible. We all co-created together, and we're gonna get like Superman pose for a second. Thank you. No. I think that I think we're here together we're ready to say with all of you that Mozilla Festival 2025 is now what? Close. But we're ready to see you next year here in Barcelona, right? Whee! Thank you.